So many different views coming through this afternoon about how to help our country recover from the protests, how to create a situation where violence like this does not happen again. Just a moment ago, you heard how important education is to social mobility, to bring people up. In other words, if they're born into a poor situation, to try and get income for them and their families. Dr. Faranaaz Veriava is the head of the Section 27 Education Rights Program. Dr. Veriava, good afternoon to you. I mean, even before the violence, we knew that the lockdowns, the school disruptions had a big impact on children. I worry that what we've seen is actually going to make social mobility harder than it even was before.
Good afternoon, Stephen. And yes, I am in complete agreement with you. As you know, Section 27 is an organization that's involved or works in promoting the rule of law, the right to health, and the right to basic education, and the right to food. And all of these rights were severely impacted with the pandemic, but this has been exacerbated during the last few days with the unrest, which was politically orchestrated unrest. And we know that in the last few days, in fact, I just heard something from Dr. Qureisha Abdul Karim that says vaccines in the KZN area have gone down from 25,000 a day to 2,600 a day. We know that there are food shortages all over the country. We know that people have been struggling to get access to ambulances and medical care. So if rights were impacted before, and in a context of a country being under great economic strain, that strain has just become severe over the last few days.
One of the, successes really of a democratic South Africa has been the school feeding scheme. I think it's between 9 and 11 million children receiving meals at school. Now, this was disrupted due to the lockdown, still not great after the hard lockdown, still not 100%. But now, the problem with this is that sometimes you can make up education that is lost. But if you lose food for children, for a young child, they almost never recover from it. You're literally condemning someone to a life poorer than they would have had otherwise because they didn't get food as a young child.
Yes, in fact, Nick Spohr, who has been running the Newzroom surveys, has been saying that to catch up with the lost time that learners have lost in the last few years, they've lost about 60%, or between 40 and 60% of learning time in the last year. And that's not only because of the different lockdowns, but also because most schools remain on a rotational basis, where some learners go 1 week and some learners go another week, and that's because of social distancing. The other issue is that we are seeing a very high rate of dropout. And the greater political instability in this country, the more we're going to see that. So we had an out-of-school learner number of about 250,000. According to Newzroom, this is now estimated at around 750,000 learners a year. And then just to say, you mentioned the school feeding scheme. As you know, we were in court last year on the school feeding scheme. We were returning to court on the school feeding scheme this year because of the poor uptake and because of government not taking enough proper steps to improve the uptake of the school feeding scheme with so many learners being on rotation. We have just managed to come to a settlement agreement on that. So you'll be hearing more about that in the next few days.
That's good news. Dr. Faranaaz Veriava, thank you. Head